DarkAce narrative.
I was in high school back then, and a part of a journalism club. Many believe that every school has its haunted stories. Different versions, different experiences. And our school that I go to is not an exception. Some believe that our school is an old hospital before. Some believe that it's a cemetery. Seems so strange to hear. Some of my classmates even allege that they had a personal creepy encounter at our school. Even though I don't believe on stories upon stories, it literally gives me chills. One time, it was around 6 to 7 p.m. after class. We have our journal meeting at the conference room. I realized that I forgot this one paper to bring with me that is needed to be passed. I left it on my desk at our classroom, so I needed to go back. While walking at the hallway, lights are already off. I was so afraid because I have this fear of darkness phobia. But bravely, I switch on each of the lights that is near so I could walk without any hesitations. When I reached the classroom, it seems like there's still inside since the lights are still up. I saw my guy classmate in the room. I asked him, "Hey, why are you still here?" He answered, "Nothing. I just don't want to go home yet." I replied, "Okay." He was sitting at the back of the classroom while my desk is in front. Then, suddenly, when I reached my area to get the paper, my guy classmate ran immediately to switch off the lights and lock the room, leaving me behind. I shouted so loud and was very shocked at the moment, while he was just laughing outside the room and jokingly shouting, "There's someone inside with you." Standing as frozen in front, I tried to look around, seeing the shape of every blurry chairs in the room. Makes my imagination go wild and crazy. I started to panic and cry. I can't even walk to reach the lights switch because I was so afraid. My body is shaking. My hair is racing as the cold wind blows from outside window. I shouted and begging for help while crying. Because of my nervousness, I didn't even notice that there's someone already opened the door. And it looks like a girl is quickly walking in front of me, but my vision is blurry because my eyeglasses are wet by my tears. She hugged me and said, "Don't be afraid, it's me." Call followed with her unexpectedly amidst darkness is a boy that switched on the lights. Finally, I realize that they are my co-journalist friends and classmates. My friends are very mad to our silly guy classmate. They tell him not to do it again to me or to any other people, or else we will report him to the school authority. I didn't expect that I will experience this. It was not even a good trip, but a very bad joke, specifically for a person who has fear of darkness. When I was about 9 years old, I'm walking home from school alone. Along the streets, I saw an old woman slowly walking towards in front of me, and it caught my attention. She's wearing brown t-shirt, long black skirt, and then eyeglasses in her ponytailed hair, while holding a plastic bag on her right hand and a white towel on the left. She's still 10 steps far away from me, but I noticed that her eyes were directly staring locked at my eyes without any blink. I am confused, for I didn't know why she's looking at me like that. I don't even know her. I don't understand what's happening, but she's whispering and murmuring. Then, snaps. Hello, dear. How are you? Are you going home from school now? The old woman cheerfully asked me while still looking directly at my eyes, and I replied, Yes, I'm fine. She continued to ask, Where do you live? 3 blocks away, I said. Still looking at me, she leaned forward. I smelled something on her towel, a flowery scent, but smells really good. You know, dear, you're so beautiful, she said. Thank you, I replied. Did you know I have a granddaughter too, just like you, beautiful. She goes with the same school as you. She continued by telling stories about her granddaughter that I didn't notice that I felt enchanted on her fancy words. And for some minutes, we are talking while walking on the opposite direction of my house. Then we stop. Eyes to eyes with me, she whispers something, then snaps her hand, but I did not care. I did not mind on what she's doing. I'm just comfortable along with her. At that time, the old woman noticed something and pointed on my ears. That's gorgeous, she said, referring to my earrings. It was a star-shaped, gold amethyst stud earrings that my mom gave to me since I was a baby. It's a bit expensive and has a sentimental value for me. I have never seen anything like that before. Can you please let me borrow? I want to try. Without any doubt, I removed it from my ears and handed my earrings to her. All of a sudden, she said that she needs to go now because her granddaughter might be hungry and waiting for her to cook food. I just smiled. Then she walked away as if nothing had happened. I just walked by too. I feel like I'm missing out. I looked around and told myself, what am I doing here? Freaking out, I came across the other street away from our home. My entire body was shaking, as well as a feeling of haziness. I can't remember what happened to me, why I am there, and where I am going. I just walked back again until I reached our home. My worried mother asked why I am late and why my face looks like I am looking at nothingness. She gave me water to drink and notices my earrings were missing. I try hard to remember, then suddenly, tears were streaming down my eyes. It flashes back to my mind and told everything to my mom what happened. We reported the incident to the police nearby our school and described the face of the old woman. Our school principal and security guard were also notified and warned for the safety of the students. Although I was robbed, I'm still thankful because I am not hurt by the old woman. But then again, it was strange. I was hypnotized. I was aware to what I was doing, but I didn't totally care. One of my best friends and I shared an apartment a while back. We both work at the same factory, just different shifts. I work nights and he worked morning shifts. We had maintenance at our place a couple times that week for issues in our bathroom. The complex knew my schedule and that I would be the one there while the work was going on. There was this really cute maintenance guy with an older gentleman working on the bathroom. We talked,
How you
and
doing?
flirted
Hi.
a little bit. Nothing abnormal for two young single people. Nothing more than that. 2 days after the work was done on the apartment was my weekend. I had a friend from work over having a couple beers. We were chatting, and I had incense burning and music playing, just trying to relax and unwind. I heard the sound the front door makes when someone comes inside. I thought it was probably my roommate who had only left for work a few minutes before. I thought he had forgotten something. I had a guy stalk me for a while, so I had a habit of locking my bedroom door as an extra layer of protection, I guess. After I heard the front door, I heard footsteps come all the way to my bedroom door. I was waiting for a knock and my roommate's voice, when all of a sudden, the lock on my bedroom door slowly unlocked. I literally watch it turn. My door comes open and it's that maintenance guy. There wasn't any more work to be done, so there was no reason for him to be there. He had a tool pouch with tools in it and a carpet knife in his hand. He was standing there staring at me with this crazy look in his eyes. I was just sitting there like, "Can I help you?" He got this look of surprise on his face, probably because he wasn't expecting anyone but me to be there. He then looked kind of angry. He gazed around the room, then back at me and muttered, "It smells good in here," and backed out of my room slowly. My friend followed him to make sure he actually left. I was so creeped out that I stayed with a friend for the weekend. I mean, this guy had a key for everything. I reported him as soon as the office opened. Thankfully, I never saw him again. There is no telling what he may have tried if I had been there alone. It was maybe 4 to 5 years ago. I was alone in my house along with my younger brother, who maybe was around 10 to 11 years old at that time, and his best friend of the same age. Nobody else was home, and there was only 2 telephones in the house. the house phone which was in the kitchen, and my brother's friend's cell phone. I and my brother weren't allowed to own cell phones at that time. While my brother and his friend were in my brother's bedroom playing around, I was watching television in the living room when suddenly the house phone rings. I get up and answer.
Hello?
Only to hear the muffled sound of my brother and his friend talking into the phone speaker. It sounds a bit distant, so I can't hear what they're saying, but it is most definitely their voices over the phone. I could also hear them outside of the speakers at the same time. So at that point, it became obvious it was them on the phone. Kind of annoyed, I hung up, only to walk up to them and tell them to stop doing prank calls on me. At this point, they just looked me up, extremely confused as to what I'm talking about. I explained to them that I heard them talking over the phone, but they deny ever calling me. I asked my brother's friend if he has his cell phone with him, to which he replies that it's in his school bag, right next to the front door, and has been there since he arrived. By the way, the bedrooms in our house were really far from the front door, so they couldn't have sneaked past me in the time that it took for me to pick up the phone and then hung up. Anyway, we all get up and indeed, the phone was there in the bag. And in the few seconds that the call lasted, I obviously didn't hear anyone running around the house. We kind of all stood there extremely creeped out and stayed put on the living room couch until my dad came back. I checked the phone number a few hours later, but it was a private number and I could never find out who or what made the call. Regardless, it's still a story I talk about with my brother sometimes.
Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? Can you hear me? Please answer. Please.
When I was probably 13, my family and I were on our way home from a Wednesday night church service. My mom was in the driver's seat and I was behind her in the back. My 5-year-old brother was in the middle and my 10-year-old sister on his other side. We were just down the road from the church, but it was a country road and late, so there was no light and no one else on the road. We were just coming up to our turn when all of a sudden a car comes swerving from our turning spot. This little car was taking the turn so fast that they came into our lane and almost hit us. We swerved as they tried to get in their own lane before we collided. Unfortunately for them, they overcorrected and their car flipped and landed on the driver's side door in the ditch. My mom of course hits the brakes and immediately jumps out of the car to go help whoever was in the car. She got about 3 steps away from the car and stopped dead in her tracks. My sister and I are sitting there with our mouths hanging wide open, having no clue what to do. All I could think is, this isn't actually happening to us. This kind of stuff only happens in movies. But why isn't my mom going to help the person? It was summer, so we had all our windows halfway down. I heard a person start yelling help from the car and my mom starts moving again to help him. But for some reason she stops again in the center of the road. Another car flies us behind us and the guy doesn't hesitate to jump out and run up to the car to help. The man gets to the car and starts prying the passenger door open so the guy in the car can get out. I can see my mom wants to run and help, but it's like she can't move from that spot. The good Samaritan that pulled up behind us is able to get the door popped open. The guy from inside crawls out the door and gets into a frog-like crouching position on top of the car. At this point my mom starts taking shuffle steps back to the car. When I look back at the guy, he has this crazy look on his face. He looks directly at our car and my mom and launches himself off the top of the car and hits the guy who was helping him. He starts running for our car at the same time my mom turns and runs for our car. He must have knew he couldn't get to our car before my mom did because he changed directions and moves to the car behind us. My mom jumps in and locks our car doors just as the guy jumps in the empty driver's seat of the car behind us. He slams on the gas before he has even closed the door and almost hits our car, taking off a second time. Next thing we know, the guy who was just carjacked runs up to my mom's window and starts screaming and knocking on the window. My mom is of course shaken and doesn't want to roll down the window, so she settles for cracking it so we can understand what he is saying. He is yelling, asking us to call 911 because his phone was in the car along with his girlfriend. So of course my mom starts searching for her phone to call, but because she is so frantic from what just happened that she can't seem to find it. So I take a break from keeping my little brother and sister calm and dial 911 on my phone and hand it to her. While she is explaining what happened to the 911 operator, we hear a woman scream down the road. The man that was at our window takes off running and a few minutes later comes back with a severely scraped up woman in his arms that turned out to be his girlfriend. My mom unlocks the doors at this point and he sets her in the passenger seat while we wait for the cops. The girlfriend told us that he noticed her while he was speeding off and tried to hit her, but she scratched and punched at him, and while trying to plead with him to stop the car, he kept coming at her though and finally rolled down the window and pushed her out, going about 60. The cops finally show up and talk to all of us to get our stories. While talking to one officer, he told my mom that the man had shot and killed a man behind some apartment complex. That's why he was driving so fast and trying to get away. When we finally got home, we were all told to go to bed, but of course I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. So I went downstairs to talk to my mom. I worked up the courage to ask her why she stopped running to the car when the other guy didn't. She told me she had such a strong feeling that she should stay in the car with us that it was almost like she could hear it. When she heard him start yelling for help, she ran to help again, but just like last time, she got the overwhelming feeling not to go to the car. To this day I wonder what would have happened if my mom hadn't listened to that feeling. The guy could have easily overpowered her and gotten to the car if she had been any further away.